Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to the start of a new World War I timeline. This will be Game 2 of Axis and Allies 1914, played with the out-of-box setup with no bid. There is something going to be a little bit different about this one. I grudgingly call this a house rule. It has to do with neutrals. We'll get into that in just a moment, but let me introduce this new opponent of mine. It goes by the name of Ragnell on the AxisandAllies.org website. He and the veteran are by far the most experienced 1914 opponents that I've come across. I should say experienced and have the time and intestinal fortitude to play repeated games. Both of them are, I think, on their 10th game with me. So yes, 2/3 of my games are against each of these two jokers. And I consider Ragnell probably the best CP player I've come across, and I consider the veteran probably the best Entente player that I've come across. So this game and the next game, unlike the last game, should be demonstrations of polished play. And Ragnell and I specifically, I think we agree down to the piece, down to the individual infantry and artillery, what the best opening moves are for both the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans. We differ, at least we have until now. I don't know what he'll do in this game. We differ slightly with the Ottomans, but that's fine. The main event really is Austria, Hungary, and Germany. Okay, so we'll go into the opening moves, but before I do, the gentleman's agreement is that no neutrals will be invaded. That's the big air quotes house rule, I want to say. Just some history on this, a few of you watching these videos. The only two games in the Axis and Allies canon where neutrals are invadable is the first one, Axis and Allies Classic, Milton Bradley, 2nd edition, whatever you want to call it, and Global 40. Global 40 is the most complex game. It has extensive rules around neutrals, how they work, how they react when they get invaded, okay? Classic, I think it was a mistake not to forbid the invasion of neutrals. The fact that neutrals are invadable in that game, in my strong opinion, breaks the game between two fully experienced, grandmaster level players. The Allies should know how to exploit that and beat the snot out of the Germans and Japanese almost every time. I think this game plays much better, I should say. It's much more entertaining when neutrals are not invadable. At least that's the running theory, so you'll see that none of us invade neutrals in this game. I will get into the details of this in my series on my other channel, but for now, just understand that. The other thing that I think helps, or could help, and I don't use these in combination, is starting the Americans at 0 IPCs and having them enter the war on turn 5. This effectively puts them in the exact same spot they would otherwise be in, but just a turn later. And that, I'm going to get way ahead of myself here and off what we're trying to do on this channel, but I'll say that I do not believe that the CP cannot win this game. They absolutely can win this game played straight up and out of box. However, they're extraordinarily brittle. They cannot take really more than one dicing if you're playing against an experienced opponent. And it takes many, many games to figure out how to work them. So I think the game could stand for a very slight adjustment, either one of those two. And I'm still working on figuring out which one I favor more than the other. But in this game, we are not going to be invading neutrals. Call it a gentleman's agreement. And finally, I'll say that Ragnell, the veteran, and the fellow who, I'll just call him out, Victory First from the AxisandAllies.org forums. These people, these are my guests on this channel. Anybody who I play against is my guest, and anybody who plays on this channel has my respect, total respect as Axis and Allies players. If you're on the Facebook forums, you'll know that I've even polled, I think at one point, everybody, and it appears that most people don't actually play. So if you're actually throwing dice, pushing plastic, and playing the game, I'm in your corner. So if you ever get in a Facebook fight and you need some backup, you can tap me. All right, let's move on. I want to encourage folks to play. Okay, so let's go through the moves. I'll just cut to the moves here. So the opener for Austria-Hungary that Ragnell is going to pull is the exact same one that I pull. So he takes all units that are adjacent to Serbia and Romania and pushes into Serbia and Romania. And so the displacement of troops is as follows. We put 10 infantry and 2 artillery in Serbia. This gives us a 75% chance of taking over the territory in a single round of combat, and we put 14 infantry and 4 artillery in Romania. That puts us at an 81% chance of taking over the territory. You could even amount to like both having 76, 77% chance, but Romania needs a little bit more oomph because A, it's got more IPCs, and B, it's closer to Russia. We want to be a little closer. So this appears to be the best way forward. Now, you'll notice that he evacuated Tyrolia. He put everything in Tyrolia in Trieste. We are not going to leave Tyrolia for the Italians. You're going to have the Germans come down and mark time and cover down in Tyrolia with at least one blocker. So that's what he did for the land combat. Everybody else went into Galicia because we got to get after Russia. Kill Russia first really is the only viable strategy that I've ever seen come close to leading or does lead to CP wins. Anything else leads to quick and early failure, regardless of what you hear on YouTube. What is he done with the Austrian Navy? This is very interesting, and this is what I do, and I think any decent CP player should do. He rams the Austro-Hungarian fleet into the Italian sea zone. Now, in this case, and in some cases, this can happen. You can lose boats, right? Because you have to roll the mine, and Ragnell lost one Austro-Hungarian cruiser. I'm personally glad that this happened because Ragnell does one thing I don't do, and that's if the cruiser survives, he absolutely attacks the Italians and just takes the risk wiping out all 3 of those boats in exchange for his Austrian fleet right out of the gate. I don't like to, and I might get into why in a moment, but suffice to say, the Romania battle goes his way. He's able to kill. He falls inside the 81% envelope and loses exactly 3 pieces on the return fire. So in other words, it's a very average battle, right? I have 6 defenders. They all defend at 3. He loses 3. The Romanians are nuked off the board. This is good because I know that they're white pieces, but they're not neutral. Okay, they're Russian. It's just better to get that in your head now, and I'll of course cover that in my series. These are Russians, Romanians are Russians, Serbians are Russians. You want to kill the Russians, kill Russia first, again, being the most viable strategy. Get rid of these pieces now, take the money, and start working Russia down. Okay, so in Serbia, things go a little bit differently. Too bad, so sad for the Austro-Hungarians. This is a very bad roll for the Austro-Hungarians. On the attack, he's at neg 1, neg 2.5 here, and he barely rolls par here. This is, he did not fall in the 75% envelope. He fell in the 25% of the times where the Austro-Hungarians do not secure Serbia. So this is actually not uncommon. Between the near 20% chance of not taking Romania and the near 25% chance of not taking Serbia, the fact that you take both in one game happens more often than not, but just barely. Okay, most of the time it's going to be you take one and one doesn't get taken. It's too bad that he couldn't nuke at least one more piece here, but anyway, small potatoes. Okay, moving on. And then here's the key. This is the thing that a lot of people playing Axis and Allies don't understand. You do not have to engage in naval combat. He can push his boats into this sea zone and then not engage in combat. It's a huge deal. It really is. And I might just put a pin in that there. We'll go into why later. I don't think I did a very good job of explaining it in any of the videos in the previous game. Okay? It essentially means he won't be able to load, and if this battleship stays here, you cannot load any transport. The Entente cannot load the Italian transport if it's here, if that Austro-Hungarian battleship is still here. cannot, you know, um, basically secure Albania, which is, I know they look neutral, but they're Italians. They just need to be activated. Okay, so his turn ends, and he puts his 4 infantry and 2 fighters. Again, that's a fine purchase on the ground there. And then I build all infantry as the Russians. So I'm just gonna put this out on the table right now. My strategy for the Entente is to build all infantry for Russia, build all infantry for France, build all infantry for Italy, build all infantry except for the needed transports as the USA, and the only power that's not going to just be building pure infantry is the United Kingdom. Again, if I explain all of this, it will take way too long. This video has already going on way longer than I wanted it to, so we're going to move on. There might be some exceptions to that, so Rag, if you're listening, I'm not opposed to spiking. I will if opportunity presents itself, I will deviate. I will absolutely deviate. I'm an opportunist for sure. I'm a cold, calculating a-hole when it comes to that strategy, but if I see something, I'm going to pull triggers. You don't want to be too predictable. So Russians produce 8 infantry, okay, and Russian combat move. This is the recommended combat move. I push we, the better players, we all push everybody into Ukraine. I don't think there's going to be any argument with this. Literally every piece goes here. Ukraine is the only territory that is adjacent to 7 territories, and it is in a very crucial choke point. So yeah, we're just going to move like bugs to a bug light towards the Ukraine. Okay. So this is how we look. I leave 1 infantry in Sevastopol. I just don't like the walk-in. You don't want anybody to just walk in and take 3 IPCs on turn 1 as Russia, in my opinion. I leave Poland. I used to leave a blocker, but I just know how badly the CP need to get after it. I'm just going to give it to the Germans and let them walk in. I used to leave 1, hoping that, and perhaps if I knew Ragnell was less experienced than he was, that he might just stay back a turn, which would be awesome for the Russians. But no, they need to get after Russia right away. Okay, now we move to the naval units. And both of these, you've got to do these last on AAA because there's mines involved, and the thing will automatically roll. And technically, you move all your pieces when you're playing over the board, and then you do this just before the actual combat phase. So I'm going to declare the battleship to move here and the cruisers to move against the Ottomans. So the battleship moves to Sea Zone 11. We say OK, and the mine missed. So, 1 in 6, like an anti-aircraft gun roll. Same with these cruisers here. We press into the Ottoman sea zone, and we lost 1. Okay. So now we click done. Okay, and now this is AAA gets this right. You are prompted. Do you want to attack? I can say no. And I've got to think about this because, of course I attack when there's 2, but let me take a pause and consider some things. Yeah, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I think I might have said yes. I think I would have tried to bring down 1 Ottoman if Ragnell hadn't also lost a. Actually, I'd like to disassociate the player from the pieces, but so I'll say if the Austrians had, because I don't believe that the player. I mean, the players. It's not the player's fault that the dice didn't go their way or not. So the Austrians lost a cruiser here. If the Austrians hadn't lost a cruiser, I think I'd be more inclined to attack. But okay, we both lose 1 cruiser to mines. That's fine. Now, why did I move this battleship here? That's because I know what the Germans are going to do. They're going to pounce on this home fleet. They're also going to nuke off this British, or attempt to nuke off this British cruiser and British transport. These are all statistically favored moves, and they usually see the total destruction of the UK Navy. Although not 100%, but that's why this Russian battleship is here. You can go, in air quotes, clean up, or at least take down 1 German boat by moving 2 spaces through the German minefield into the British waters. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, you'll see it on the next turn. So we don't have any combat. I like to click this button down here. It highlights where you have units that haven't yet moved. And then we're going to click Done. Drop in the purchases. And we're going to call it good. We collect 25 and we end with 26. And that's fine. I'm not one of those people that needs to spend every IPC. I think that's, at least in 1914, probably not the best way to manage things, but you know, all these details, all these little mystery statements I'm saying, I will flesh out in my series video. At any rate, let's let the fireworks fly, Ragnell. Let's have a good game, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.